righty. What's up, everybody? We took our show on the road today. We are in an undisclosed spot up in the karaoke booth, hanging out with these two wonderful ladies. Welcome to another episode of Major Reconstruction with myself, Damon, and my wife, Rasha. We got a special guest today.
Yes, we do. So today we wanted to switch it up a little bit. So we have Miss Tasha Pettis Bonds, and she is the executive director for the Women Business Center at the Urban League.
Mm-hmm.
And so we brought Tasha for a couple of reasons. One, because we promised you that one of the things we were going to do was make sure we brought you tools and resources to help you strive, not only individually, but as a couple. So that's one reason. But the second reason is, the reason we exist is to help couples get stronger. And we know that one of the number one reasons for divorce is finance. Now, whatever that reason is behind the disagreement or the inability to come to agreement on finances, it is around finances. So Miss Tasha is going to talk to us today, and she is going to give us some tips, and she is going to share with us kind of how we can avoid some of those pitfalls. So before we jump in, anything?
I don't know. I want Tasha to just go ahead and tell us, share her world with us, some of her knowledge as far as what couples can do financially to become more sustainable.
So thank you for offering me to come and speak on this subject. I have a 20 plus year background in banking, and one of the things I was most passionate about was around financial education and helping people try to be better than they were, the day before, right, with understanding finances. And one of the things I find interesting about couples when it comes to money is that during the dating period, we don't spend enough time understanding where people are financially, what their financial goals are, short-term and long-term. And we forget that marriage becomes like this business partnership. And so that's one of the things that we've worked with in the past with some of the couples we've spent time with in the bank, is really trying to get people on the same page, because people spend differently. Men spend differently than women.
As we've discovered.
We've kind of seen it all. And so if you guys just start thinking about questions, I could probably help you answer that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I have one for you. What I have found in my individual life is that people don't tend to budget as much. And I'm not sure your thoughts on how this applies to couples, and how important is it to sit down together and create a household budget?
Oh my goodness, it's so important, because what's important to you may not be important to me. And so what you find is that when two people or operate in different lanes, first of all, you're not honoring the marriage, the vows that you took in the first place. But secondly, it can derail at any moment. And it's because your ideologies are completely different than mine. And so when you think about budgeting in a household.
So wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you mean if I want to spend $4,000 on the bike, that's probably not what's best?
Well, if you didn't consult your wife on the purchase.
Well, we talked about it.
I mean, there's a few different things. There's a few different ways to look at that. Rather you communicated it clearly,
right,
what your game plan was.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys understood where the money was coming from to fund that. Are we setting up a separate savings account? How are we spending? So I understand, is it coming from emergency savings? Is it something we're going to work and put our change in a bucket to save towards?
No, I just want to give her a hard time, because when we first got together.
When were we first? After we were serious and engaged, somebody who shall remain nameless,
$4,000, not $400.
I mean, but
2 zeros, 4,000.
It was needed at the time. It was for health, because also as part of being a good husband, you have to be healthy. So, but anyway, we'll say health is another episode. Tasha, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, this is actually a very good point. You have to agree on large purchases.
How we agree on that?
So, I'm gonna play with you. Oh my goodness, and I can go into that story. We gonna tell that story for
Let Tasha.
I was gonna say we're gonna tell that story another time. How I was sitting in the car when you went in and got the bike and came out, and with the way you started the conversation, I already knew
there was something.
I knew. Yeah. So anyhow, okay. So let me ask you this. One thing I hear being a big debate with couples, and I don't know what your take might be on this, is when one person makes way more than the other. How does that factor into budgeting and fighting and getting on the same page?
It's creating an understanding and a mutual respect for what each other do bring to the table. So I can tell you I've been involved with an ex-NFL player. You know, that was one of my relationships, or former NFL players is my ex. And I was insulted by him because he didn't understand the value of me wanting to have a basic job. Mm-hmm. He had the philosophy that I'm in the NFL, I'm making money, I should do. But I still wanted to contribute something to the household. And besides, I was very young. So I'd seen my mother working, I'd seen my mother be an executive at the bank. My parents paid me to go to college. I wanted to contribute some kind of way. So as I grew up and grew into relationships, I've been the breadwinner before. But part of the problem in that is not articulating clearly and confidently that this is our money, so that there's no underlying feelings of inadequacy on his part, which then leads to other ripples in the relationship of jealousy or almost despise, because the image is that because I make more money, I control the money. But that wasn't the case, or that was not my intention. So we talked about this before we even got started. There are so many different elements when you think about financial education or finances in the household. Is it because people didn't manage their money well? Is it because I make more than you and I feel a certain way? Is it because we were both broke and struggling, and the struggle became worse, when it was two of us together raising kids, so it's a lot of different layers, a lot of different scenarios that are out there.
And I know with it being this time of year, that a lot of people are getting tax returns. What, in your personal opinion, is a good investment or a good thing to do once that husband, wife, or get separate checks, or they get this lump sum of money?
Yeah, we kind of talked about that too around stimulus checks. So you see a lot of people, they take the stimulus check and they use it to stimulate the economy. They put the money right back by buying new shoes, new purse, whatever they wanted, or whatever they felt that they missed out on at that time. People fail to think about saving first. That's called paying yourself first. So I've been in this trap before too, though. So I wouldn't sit up here and act like that.
I think we all been there.
Yeah. Where you get that, you get that tax refund. Mm-hmm. You know at a certain point that it's $4,000 or $5,000.
Yeah.
I always owe the government, but some people get these $4,000 or $5,000 checks back, and right away their first thought is it's money. It's that instant gratification of getting something. Right. What we fail to do is say, okay, we're getting $5,000 back. Put $2,000 back into a pot for emergency savings. Then we can take $1,000 of the $5,000 and put it towards something that may be passed or something that needs to be fixed up in the household. Mm-hmm. And then let's take this other $2,000 and spend it on a trip or something that's expensive. So it's a lot of different ways. I tell people all the time, every situation matters on what's best for you as a couple. So you two, I can't tell you one thing that's going to be the secret to you righting all of the financial woes in your marriage versus this couple. Everybody's income is different, everybody's spending habits are different, and everybody's mechanisms that they use to budget are completely different. And what's important to them too. So what's important to some folks today might be having a big house, and a flashy car, and flashy clothes, and nice purses. But realistically, how much of that are you putting aside for healthy purchases such as a $4,000 just
No, she did. Shots fired. Y'all hear that? She threw in about the bike.
But seriously, that could have
Not
been
real life.
that could have been something you looked at and said, on a serious level, this is going to help cut down on other expenses around financial fitness. I'm not financial. I mean physical fitness,
So
right?
like a gym,
Yeah,
a gym membership
yep.
or something.
Yep. So it's just what I find the biggest issue in any marriage is
How we
the
doing
lack
up
of
here?
communication, but more so the lack of communication up front before the marriage. During the courtship, we have a clear understanding around what your goals are, what my goals are, and not just an understanding around what the goals, but what's important to get us there. So we have a game plan, and we support each other along the way. You know, it's so critical. But there are a lot of tools out there today that can assist people with budgeting, even people who don't know how to budget. We do these workshops now where we talk about the basics of budgeting. And several years ago, I lost 100 pounds. I got extremely fat after having a baby. And I was so mad because when I went to this nutritionist, the first thing she had me do was write down everything that I was eating for a full week. And I printed a check for $60 as soon as I sat down and gave this, you know, it's the first thing you do with that. And I'm like, I paid this woman $60 to tell me to write down everything I did.
Right.
Now, here's what she told me. You got to be true about it. I went home. First day, I write down everything I need. The list was this long. She said, you got to be true to self. I looked at that list and I'm like, I might eat on mine.
Right.
The second day, since I'm being true to myself, I can't put this in my mouth because I got to put it on this paper.
Right.
Without
I knew that
even
was
knowing
going.
that mindset.
Yeah.
So my list became this short by day 3. By day 4, 5, 6, and 7, I'm sitting there looking at it myself, deciding on what could I do without every single day. I got back and she asked me to share what that experience was like, and I shared all of this, right? So she said, okay, take a look at all of that. That was all intentional from a mindset perspective. What are 2 or 3 things you have to have every single week? Because we're going to leave it in your diet.
Yeah.
And I think it was cheese. I know cheese was one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But she said, what are the things you gotta do, you can do without? Soda was one. Milk, like we circled all these things that, you know, or, you know, you have one.
Yeah.
So I started out, so needless to say, that basic exercise is something I've turned into a financial coaching exercise. I challenge couples to write down every single thing they're spending money on for a week. The man and the woman. And you got to do it separately. Don't come home and try to say, all right, babe, today I bought this. No. As you stand right. Because when you're going to put that pen to the paper,
Sits on his head when
you gotta go home and show it to her and show how good or bad or in between of a job you've done that day. The accountability becomes completely different. Your thought process becomes, because you're no longer operating in self, you're operating in unity now, right? And either it's out of fear or out of shame or whatever it's going to, you're not going to buy that because you know you got to go home.
Probably shame, but whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Right.
I'm just sitting there thinking now, my wheels are turning like, what do I do? So, yeah.
It's crazy. You know, I've done this class before, this financial coaching exercise. This lady came to us and said, that was the most eye-opening exercise I've ever done in my life. She said, because it made me look and see every single day out of habit. She was walking out of her business, going next door, buying a bag of Doritos and a Coke every day for lunch.
Wow.
She said it was $4. She started thinking about $4 times 5 days a week.
Yep.
That's $20 times 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
Dang it, I'm sitting there talking about I don't have Christmas money. If I put that $4 aside every single day, that was the Christmas, or that 20 years. She said, and not only that, from a health conscious perspective,
Oh, that's so.
I started thinking about everything I was spending my body
Spend $1,000 a year
on that.
Doritos.
But then she started looking at the fact that she was pre-diabetic. So all of the doctor's visits, all the money she was getting ready to put out in medicine, and all that. It's a whole lot that once people get the discipline behind managing your finances, a whole lot of other elements fall into right into play right behind.
Yeah, I think we should probably work on that exercise and Have you write down everything that you spend money on?
That you spend. But that's just one. I always tell people to start with simple things to get you in the mindset of why money is important. That's one thing. The second thing that you can do that's a simple exercise is to take a look at what are some of your short-term goals together and as individuals, right? So what are some of your short-term goals and how do we plan to get there? And what can we commit to doing? For years, my ex-husband's mother-in-law, I remember years ago, going into their house, they had this big vase, it was open. And I'm like, that's a bunch of change. She said, that's how we determine where we're going on the trip at every year. So they would drop the change in as they came in the house every day or whenever they would check the purse or change, and it piled up.
How does somebody else say they do that? That is mind-blowing to you that you can say for a whole vacation.
Yes.
You know what? If once upon a time when currency was cash, and we just spent cash all the time, yeah, that was highly likely. Like I have a little piggy bank now, and whenever I have cash, I might take a 20 and drop in there, or all the change in my pocket I'll drop in there. But I think the only difference between now and then is that we don't keep cash anymore. Everything we spend our money on is like, yeah, and there's just some bank accounts too that allow you to roll your change over to a savings account on the dollar. So yeah.
And that's the mindset that people aren't carrying as much cash with them within this system.
Right.
But there are apps out there that can do the same thing for you. No, that's good. But it's just little exercises people gotta come to an agreement on. But it's all before marriage. And some people feel it's too late once they're married to get it back on track. It's not. It's not too late. It takes a commitment from both people, though. Yeah. I can't be overly committed to suddenly doing budgeting if you don't keep going out and blowing on $4,000. I'm just.
We back on the bike again.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying. Now, one thing though, when you talk about mindset and money, now there is the other end of the spectrum is that you can operate from such a scarcity and I don't have the mindset that can also be very damaging too, because what I find myself after being a single mother, and also I send my boys to private school, so every dime, I needed every single dime, and what I find now is that I'm like, no, we can't spend it. No, we can't go on vacation. Like, he's like, we need a vacation right now. And I'm like, do we really have to have a vacation? And if we do, can't we just literally drive like an hour away and stay at a bed and breakfast? And he's like, no, we're going on a real vacation. And I'm still like.
But there are ways to do that.
Yeah.
There are ways to compromise and make both parties happy. But it's also going to boil down to budget. If it's something that's important to both of you guys, then set a budget of how we're going to get there. I always challenge people that I used to do this all the time when I was in banking, especially when like a loan would be declining in line. I don't want to hear the no. Tell me what a yes looks like. So no today, but what does a yes look like? A yes looks like we need to put $2,000 aside so we can have a nice vacation. Well, how are we going to get there and when? What's the game? When's the end date, right? Yep. And then what tools and resources do we have that we're looking at? What websites are we watching to see the prices go up or down? Yeah. What are you willing to give up? Wait a minute, who wants to do a nice trip? Then what are you willing to give up on a weekly basis? So you do that one exercise I mentioned, write everything down. What can you give up on a weekly basis that's going to help us get to that goal? And then you do the same thing. This is what I can give up. That money that I'm giving up, I'm going to move it into the savings account. Yeah. And before you know it, it's crazy to see how simple things can put the money aside. But there's a different conversation that you sparked around scarcity. When people get to a place of budgeting and truly get into this budgeting space, it would be surprising to you how much we can free money up by looking at things. Oftentimes people get confused. They look at, I tell people this all the time when I do this financial coaching. You can tell me where every cent comes into your household. We know our income like the back of our hand. Yeah. We know what time that direct deposit is going to hit on that Friday. I can tell you right now, my direct deposit hits 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Every other Friday. I I wake up to go use the bathroom. I look over because I know if it's 35, it's gonna be right there just to see it, right? We know that. If only we can know where we spend every single cent at, from the smallest of things. So a compromise might even be starting to negotiate where we are with insurance, car insurance, homeowners insurance, where we spend our money, how much are we paying for a cable bill? Are there offers out there that can lower that? Where are we at on our cell phone bills? It is so many ways to free up money every single month. But it takes a little bit of time to do that research too. That a lot of people don't have time. And that's what they rely on. I call that class the power of the consumer. You take all of the different things that you have, monthly contracts or anything with, and those cell phone companies used to be really good at it, where you take a look at everything you have, and you're paying, gosh, I think we paid, I forget how much we paid, for $300 for 3 or 4 phones. We recently looked at T-Mobile, I think, and their bill's ready to slash in there. That's crazy. That's $150 times 10. That's $1,500. You add another 300, that's $1,800 a year. You save on one thing, one cell phone. I haven't had a cable. Now my daughter hates me for this. We moved to a new apartment. We moved to a new apartment in March, and I didn't get any cable or internet turned on. Hotspot is free on our phones. It's you and I. We have unlimited hotspot.
Right.
The internet was unreliable. Right. When I first moved, I got the internet. Had to get that one shut down because it wasn't working. It was spotty. All these different internets couldn't work over where we live. Hotspot like that.
I'm just now, I had a relapse. I'm just now coming out of the hospital. I'm moving in with my wife, not having cable in the house.
But cable is so expensive.
It is, I agree. But I'm good now.
My cable is like $180.
I'm good now.
He never told me this, by the way, to this very second.
I'm good now. I mean, I have lived without ESPN now.
But think about how many.
Because I do exactly what you talk about. They go through and what gotta go. But again, but there is a bad side to that too, though. You get to the point because you can't. I mean, you are your own silly, and so you have to. Yeah, You gotta
give sometimes, especially when it's.
And I have to feel that it's okay to spend money. Sometimes, like it's okay.
Yeah.
It is.
I got you.
He definitely got me because we go and buy $4,000 bikes.
I got you.
He absolutely got me.
But it really is important. And then here's something else I always tell you. Enjoy the money that you work for today. So when people talk about trips, this could be back to banking too, because I was traveling with banking quite often. Even today, though I'm not in that space, I will find me a budget weekend getaway that's only costing me around $250.
Yeah.
But to your point, I'll drive to it.
Right.
Or I'll find a flight that's $100.
Yeah.
Find a hotel or somebody to stay with me. And I have it all mapped out of what my maximum is going to be. But I still enjoy life.
Oh, absolutely.
You gotta enjoy life. Like remember I was saying that when I did that weight loss thing, losing X amount of pounds was important to me, so I gave up these 3 things, or it was 2 or 3 things I could. Same thing when you do your budget. I had to go to the movies every week. I love the show. I love the movies. So I had to go. But my maximum spending was $20. No matter what they had in concession. My ticket was $5, $20 in concession. Some weeks, because other weeks I would have budgeting, especially if I went by myself.
Right.
I could do without any of that.
There you go.
Yeah, but you think about if you go with any other time of day, where tickets are $12. Except for Tuesdays when they're $5. But my daughter, if I go, my mom want the popcorn, the nachos, if she had her way. My children, it's funny to see my kids grow up, and some of them mimic me in some of their spending. Yeah. And so it's not too late. That was the next thing I wanted to touch on. As part of this household, this union, you have to get the kids to buy into it too. It's just as important for them to understand the importance of saving, but also not just the saving piece, but not the frivolous spending too. My kids tease me to this day. The only pair of tennis shoes that they would get, the name brand, was whatever sports team that they played on. I didn't buy a single pair of Air Jordans for them to walk around in, the LeBrons, the KD, none of that.
Right.
Ever. That was their allowance money, or that was money once they got their jobs that they spent their own stuff. I never bought a PlayStation.
Okay.
In all these years, I never bought a Nintendo, and they always had one.
Right.
But guess what? Because they spent money on it, that machine, somebody accidentally knocked it off.
Oh, see.
Man, you tripping? Why you touching Mama? He touching the machine. But that's how serious it got for them, because they had spent their money.
Oh yeah.
So even the respect that kids have for money become different when they spend it wrong. Watch when you tell a kid, here's $100 for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want cash or you want gifts? Give me the cash. That's what you're going to say.
Yeah.
They're going to walk that mom. Did you want those new tennis shoes? Oh, I'm straight up.
I'm good. I'm going to hold that. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
I thought you wanted it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's funny, but it all boils down to mindset and discipline. Yeah. And you know, I took it, I think I shared it with you the last time I did the podcast with my boys. So I have a blended family of 7, but in the household I had 5. And our grocery bill was out of control. I told the boys, I said, listen, I'm doing all the shopping now without all the snacks. You guys are going to come to the grocery store and pay me $40. That's it. Every 2 weeks, $40. It needs some ass. These 2 boys are in high school. We walked through the store, and of course they disrespected the third son that lived in the house. He was with Brian, so his opinion didn't count, and the girls didn't count. They're walking through the store arguing over how they were spending this $40. I didn't care. They were loud as hell.
Right.
I'm walking through the store.
Figure it out.
I get up front. I said, I'm not giving you a cent more. The bill was like $40.72. My son was like, you really not going to give us the change? No. My one son snatched his soda off. He said, that's the soda you wanted anyway. Nobody else wanted that. But the lesson went beyond that. Savage. Yeah, he didn't say, you don't want to drink anyway. They got the food home. They started managing how much individuals were eating. Now, once before, they took a whole bag downstairs and it didn't come back up. Dude, how many of those chips you gonna eat?
Right.
Mama, this is second handful of chips.
Right.
They became the food manager without me having to say it.
Figure it out.
The amount of money I saved from that is outrageous. And now, to this day, one of my daughters strictly looks for grocery on sale. And she goes to the dollar store for everything in life. Because she's spending her own money.
Dollar store, best store ever.
That's a whole nother.
The Dollar Tree, the best store ever.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay, so top tips. So if you kind of had to sum it up, I do love the idea of the exercise of writing down. Both couples write down for a week what you spend your money on, but to kind of sum it up, kind of what are like the top tips?
That would be one. Second thing would be to understand what your short-term goals are, what your long-term goals are. Short-term being trips, $4,000 bike. Long-term goal.
But you know what, in my defense, let me just, I did make payments on that bike, so it wasn't just the $4,000 up front. So I'm sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to clear that air.
And then decided to take it right out.
I got it out a little
Because the
early.
dude gave him a deal he couldn't refuse. Yeah. So don't buy it.
But short-term, understanding short-term and long-term goals. Keeping in mind long-term goals centered around life insurance, health insurance, retirement and savings plans. Those are things that we need to understand as a couple. What is going to be our game when we turn 65? A third thing is always evaluating life insurance. There's so many of our people who are being left behind to struggle. Because we talked about stress. That's one of the biggest struggles. My mother died at 44, but because of things her and my dad had in place, 15 years later, when my brother graduated from college, he was able to he's got 2 degrees. He was on, scholarship partially, but he's got his master's now because of money that my mother put aside when he was 7. He was 7 when she died. But he also had money to put on his car throughout high school, car for college. And I'm not talking about she was rich. We lived at Goodfellow Natural Bridge, but she knew the value of life insurance. But how they do it now? They do something.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Look.
West side, y'all. She home.
Something.
She played for the home team, y'all. She's from the West.
But that's not. I would definitely tell people to evaluate their life insurance and where they are today, and where they could be in the event something happens to them.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's 3. We get 4. 1, getting the children involved in the financial picture. It was a taboo when we were growing up. You didn't know that your parents paid bills on time.
No, absolutely.
I never saw our lights turn off. I never saw a disconnect notice on it. But to help them understand the value of the dollar is so critical. And we fail to do that as African parents.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. And number 5, teaching them not only how the household bills work, but how to spend their own money. Like I just gave you those examples.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't even believe in giving their kids allowance.
Right.
They say, shoot, no. They do their work for free. No, you're teaching them the value of the dollar early on. And you're teaching them work ethic. And a lot of our kids don't have it because, quite honestly, we got to the place where we could give it to them differently than our parents could because of our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
My financial picture is better than what my parents were. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But because I could give it to them, I find sometimes that when they were growing up, I would just give it. When I turned the light switch off and turned on the allowance light switch, it became a whole different story.
That's what I need. I need the allowance light switch. And I find myself, my son's new crave is this game, and they have these little things that he want to buy all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, go ahead. But now, with that being said, he's going to get an allowance. And if he chooses to blow it and spend his $20 on these V-Bucks. Yes.
I have a nephew that's 11.
Man, if he chooses to spend on these V-Bucks, what's the name of the game? Fortnite?
Oh, Fortnite!
If he want to spend $1 on that, he can Fortnite it up. Don't ask me for nothing else past that. So, noted. Very well noted. So, yes, thank you. And, we won't hold you. This was very, very informative and very helpful, not for myself, but for the wife as well. And we thank you for all of your time. We know it's late. We didn't have you up and out all night.
That's all right.
Early in the week, so we more than appreciate you, and we thank you so much. And I've learned a lot, and hopefully some of the people that watch this video have learned a lot. So
I have a few partners that will come and work with individual personal budgeting and credit.
Okay.
We got Prosperity Connection. We have Operation Hope.
Okay.
Those are 2 organizations.
So how do people get the help if they want to connect with one of these organizations?
They can look it up because I don't have their phone number.
So what we'll do is we'll just add a link. We'll add links to this when we post it.
Yep. And that's all they do is financial education.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Tasha. We appreciate you so much.
Well, I would be remiss if I say do not forget to share, to like, and to subscribe to our page. But again, I cannot thank Tasha enough for giving us her time and sharing her knowledge. And
yes.
we will likely, probably sometime in the future, have her back again.
Absolutely.
With that being said, anything else?
Nope. Thank you for tuning in. Another episode of Major Reconstruction with Tasha. Thanks, everybody.